The message came on a Tuesday. It arrived through channels that should not have existed, using frequencies humanity had never discovered, carrying words in a language that somehow translated itself perfectly into every human tongue. Ambassador Elena Vasquez read it 17 times before she believed it was real. She stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, the flagship of Earth's diplomatic fleet. Outside the windows, stars drifted by like scattered diamonds. Behind her, Admiral James Chen waited in silence. He was a patient man. He had learned to be patient during 30 years of military service. But even his patience was wearing thin. "Well?" he finally asked. Elena set down her datapad. Her hands were steady, but her mind was racing. "The Galactic Council," she said slowly. "That is what they call themselves. 4,000 species. Millions of years old. They have been watching us." Chen moved to stand beside her. He was a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Watching us do what?" "Everything." Elena pulled up the message again. "They have been watching since we first left Earth, since our first moon landing, maybe even before that. They have records of our wars, our discoveries, our failures, our triumphs. All of it. And they waited until now to say hello?" Elena laughed, but there was no humor in it. "They are not saying hello, Admiral. They are saying come here. They are saying present yourself for evaluation. They are saying submit to our authority." The bridge crew had gone quiet. Everyone was listening now. Elena could feel their eyes on her back. Chen took the datapad from her hands and read the message himself. His expression did not change, but Elena saw his jaw tighten. "Integration protocols," he read aloud. "Technology assessment, military dissolution." He looked up. "They want us to give up our weapons." "They want us to give up everything," Elena corrected. "Our ships, our colonies, our right to govern ourselves. They want us to become part of their empire. A small part, a quiet part, a part that does what it is told." "And if we refuse?" Elena walked to the window. Earth was far behind them now, just another star among billions. But she could still feel it. Every human could. It was home. It was where their story began. "The message mentions a species called the Vrex," she said. "They refused integration 200,000 years ago. The Council turned their homeworld into glass. They killed billions. They made an example." Chen joined her at the window. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The stars continued their slow drift. The ship hummed with quiet power. "So we have a choice," Chen said at last. "Kneel or die." Elena turned to face him. She was not a tall woman, but in that moment she seemed to fill the entire bridge. Her eyes burned with something that was not quite anger and not quite fear. It was something older, something human. "No," she said. "We have a third choice. We show them who they are dealing with." The next 3 weeks were the busiest of Elena's life. She sent messages to every human colony, every military base, every scientific outpost. She spoke with presidents and generals and scientists and ordinary people who had extraordinary ideas. She asked one question over and over. What do we have that they do not know about? The answers surprised even her. Humanity had been preparing for this moment without knowing it. For 300 years, ever since they first reached beyond their home planet, humans had been building, inventing, hiding. They had learned early that the universe was vast and dark and full of unknowns, so they had prepared for unknowns. Deep in asteroid fields, hidden fleets waited in silence. Inside pocket dimensions that human scientists had learned to fold into existence, entire colonies thrived unseen. Technologies that seemed like magic had been developed and then locked away because they were too dangerous to use. And through it all, humanity had kept a secret. They had never shown the universe their true face. They had always held back, always hidden their strength, always pretended to be less than they were. Now it was time to stop pretending. Elena chose 12 ships for the journey to Nexus Prime. It was a small fleet, almost insultingly small. The Council would see it as a sign of weakness. They would see 12 vessels and think they were dealing with a young species that did not understand its place in the universe. They would be wrong. On the day of departure, Elena stood in the cargo hold of the Defiant. Admiral Chen stood beside her. Between them sat a small black case, no larger than a shoebox. "Are you sure about this?" Chen asked. Elena nodded. The Council has been watching us for centuries. They think they know what we are. They think they have measured our strength and found it lacking. She placed her hand on the case. This will show them how wrong they are. And if it does not work? Elena smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who had already considered every possibility and found peace with all of them. Then we will find another way. Humans always do. The fleet departed 3 hours later. 12 ships carrying diplomats, soldiers, scientists, and secrets. They traveled through coordinates provided by the Council, passing through regions of space no human had ever seen. They saw wonders beyond imagination, stars in colors that had no names, planets made of crystal, clouds of gas that sang with ancient music. But Elena barely noticed. Her mind was focused on what lay ahead. The journey took 6 weeks. During that time, Elena prepared her delegation. She taught them what to say and what not to say. She showed them how to stand, how to walk, how to meet the eyes of beings that had ruled the galaxy since before Earth existed. She taught them the most important lesson of all. They will try to make you feel small, she told them. They will show you their power, their history, their endless years. They will expect you to bow. They will expect you to beg. She paused and looked at each face in turn. Do not give them what they expect. Remember what you are. Remember where you come from. Remember that every human who ever lived, every struggle we ever faced, every victory we ever won, lives in you. On the 42nd day, they arrived at Nexus Prime. Elena stood at the window and looked out at the Council's seat of power. It was a station the size of a small moon, built from the heart of a dead star. It was ancient beyond measure and beautiful beyond words. She was not impressed. Send the signal, she told Chen. Tell them humanity has arrived. Nexus Prime was the oldest thing humanity had ever seen. It hung in the darkness of space like a frozen god, its surface covered in lights that had burned for longer than Earth had existed. Ships of every size and shape moved around it like insects around a hive. Some were elegant and smooth. Others were strange and twisted, built by minds that did not think like human minds. Elena watched from the Defiance observation deck as they approached. Beside her, Admiral Chen stood in silence. Behind them, the rest of the delegation waited in neat rows. Soldiers in dress uniforms, scientists in formal attire, diplomats who had spent their entire lives preparing for moments like this. None of them had prepared for anything like Nexus Prime. It is beautiful, said Dr. Sarah Kim, the delegation's chief scientist. She was a small woman with quick eyes and a mind that never stopped working. The engineering alone must have taken thousands of years. Millions, Elena corrected. According to their records, they began building this station before the first fish crawled out of Earth's oceans. The docking process took 2 hours. Human ships were not designed for Council ports, and the Council did not seem interested in making things easier. But eventually the Defiant locked into place, and the airlock doors opened. Elena was the first to step through. The corridor on the other side was vast. The ceiling rose so high that it disappeared into darkness. The walls were carved with symbols and images that told stories no human could read. The air smelled strange, like metal and flowers, and something older than both. Waiting for them was an escort of 12 beings. They were tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors as they moved. Their eyes were black and empty, like holes cut into the fabric of reality. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," said the lead escort. Its voice came from nowhere and everywhere at once. "You will follow us to the council chamber. You will not speak unless spoken to. You will not touch anything. You will not stray from the path." Elena smiled politely. "Thank you for the warm welcome." The escort stared at her for a long moment. Then it turned and began walking. The human delegation followed. The journey through Nexus Prime took nearly an hour. They passed through corridors and chambers and spaces that defied human understanding. They saw species they could not name and technologies they could not comprehend. They walked beneath stars that had been captured and placed in glass containers. They crossed bridges that stretched over oceans of liquid light. And everywhere they went, eyes watched them. "They are curious about us," Chen murmured to Elena. "They are measuring us," she replied. "They want to see how we react. They want to know if we are afraid." "Are we?" Elena glanced at him. "Are you?" Chen's expression did not change, but something flickered in his eyes. I have faced death more times than I can count. I have watched friends die in battles that history has forgotten. I have seen the worst that humanity can do to itself, he paused. But I have also seen what we can become. I have seen ordinary people do extraordinary things. I have seen hope survive in places where hope should not exist. He looked up at the captured stars above them. No, he said finally, I am not afraid. I am excited. The council chamber was a circle. 12 seats rose around its edge, each one occupied by a being that radiated power and age. At the center of the circle was a small platform where petitioners were expected to stand. It was designed to make them feel small. It was designed to make them feel surrounded. Elena stepped onto the platform without hesitation. Her delegation remained at the edge of the chamber, watching. Species 7421, announced a booming voice. Designation, human. Origin, soul system. Age, 300 years since first contact with interstellar space. The voice came from the highest seat. Elena looked up and saw the High Arbiter for the first time. Thalvex of the Dominari was ancient. His body was covered in armor that had grown from his own flesh over countless millennia. His 4 eyes glowed with cold intelligence. His mandibles clicked and scraped as he spoke, each sound carrying meaning that went beyond words. You have been summoned to answer for your actions, Thalvex continued. You have expanded without authorization. You have colonized without treaty. You have developed technologies without approval. These are violations of galactic law. Elena listened without expression. When he finished, she tilted her head slightly. I was not aware we were subject to galactic law, she said. We never signed any treaties. We never agreed to any terms. We never even knew you existed until 6 weeks ago. A murmur rippled through the chamber. The other council members shifted in their seats. They were not used to being challenged. Thalvex's eyes narrowed. Ignorance is not a defense. The law exists whether you acknowledge it or not. All species that reach the stars must submit to integration. This is how order is maintained. This is how peace is preserved. Peace for whom? Elena asked. The chamber went silent. You speak of peace, Elena continued, but your message mentioned the Rex. You destroyed their entire civilization because they refused to submit. That does not sound like peace to me. That sounds like control. Thalvex rose from his seat. He was massive, easily 3 times Elena's height. His shadow fell over her like a wave. The Vrex were a threat, he said. They refused to accept their place in the natural order. They believed they could challenge the Council's authority. They were wrong. He leaned closer. Do not make the same mistake, little human. Your species is young. Your achievements are modest. Your power is insignificant compared to what we command. Elena did not step back. She did not flinch. She looked up at the ancient being that towered over her and met his gaze without fear. You have been watching us for 300 years, she said quietly. You have counted our ships and mapped our worlds. You think you know what we are. She paused. You are wrong. Thalvex stared at her. For a moment something flickered in his ancient eyes. It might have been curiosity. It might have been concern. It vanished too quickly to identify. Bold words, he said, but words are easy. Let us see if your species has anything more substantial to offer. He gestured, and holographic displays flickered to life around the chamber. They showed everything the Council knew about humanity. Population counts, ship numbers, technology assessments, colony locations. This is what you are, Thalvex declared. A small species on the edge of known space, young, fragile, and alone. You have 2 choices. Accept integration and join the Council's protection, or refuse and face the consequences. Elena looked at the displays. She studied the numbers, the images, the careful analysis that the Council had compiled over centuries of observation. Then she began to laugh. The laughter echoed through the chamber like thunder. It was not nervous laughter. It was not the laughter of someone trying to hide their fear. It was genuine, deep, and utterly unexpected. Elena laughed like someone who had just heard the funniest joke in the universe. And she was not alone. Behind her, Admiral Chen began to chuckle. Then Dr. Kim. Then the soldiers and diplomats and scientists who made up the human delegation. One by one, they all started laughing until the ancient chamber rang with the sound. The council members looked at each other in confusion. In all their millions of years, no species had ever laughed at them. Petitioners begged. Petitioners pleaded. Petitioners trembled and promised to obey. They did not laugh. Thalvik's mandibles clicked in rapid succession, a sign of deep agitation. You find something amusing, human? Elena wiped her eyes and took a deep breath. The laughter faded, but the smile remained. Forgive me, High Arbiter. It is just that we have been waiting for this moment for a very long time, and it is even more absurd than we imagined it would be. Absurd? Yes. Elena gestured at the holographic displays that still floated around the chamber. You have spent centuries watching us. You have gathered intelligence, analyzed data, built profiles. You believe you understand what humanity is. She shook her head. You do not understand anything. Thalvix descended from his seat and approached the platform. Each step shook the floor. Explain yourself. Elena looked up at him without fear. Tell me, High Arbiter, how old is your species? The Dominari have existed for 400 million years. And in that time, how much have you changed? Thalvex hesitated. The question seemed to confuse him. We have evolved. We have grown. We have perfected our society and our technology. Over 400 million years, Elena said. And what about the Council as a whole? When was the last major innovation? When was the last time someone invented something truly new? Silence filled the chamber. The council members shifted uncomfortably. No one answered. We did some research before coming here, Elena continued. We accessed every historical record we could find. We studied the great achievements of council civilization. She paused. Do you know what we discovered? The last significant technological breakthrough happened nearly 100,000 years ago. Since then, nothing. No new ideas. No new inventions. No progress at all. We have no need for progress, Thalvik said. We have achieved perfection. You have achieved stagnation. Elena's voice hardened. You have built an empire that spans the galaxy, but you have forgotten how to grow. You have lived so long that you have stopped dreaming. She stepped closer to the towering arbiter. By all physical measures, she should have been terrified. He could crush her with a single limb, but she showed no fear at all. Humanity is 300 years old, she said. In that time, we have gone from wooden ships to starships, from fire to fusion, from stone tools to artificial minds. We have done in 3 centuries what you have not done in 100 millennia. Because you are desperate, Thalvex replied. Because you are mortal. Because you are rushing toward death and cannot accept it. Yes, Elena smiled. Exactly. We are desperate. We are mortal. Every human knows from childhood that their time is limited, that every day matters, that if they want to achieve anything, they must do it now. She turned to address not just Thalvex, but the entire council. You have had millions of years to build your civilization. You have had time to be careful, to be patient, to move slowly and avoid mistakes. We have not had that luxury. We have had to learn fast, think fast, move fast. We have had to turn every limitation into strength. Dr. Kim stepped forward. May I speak, Ambassador? Elena nodded. The scientist looked up at the council with eyes that held no intimidation. Your technology assessment says we are Class 4. Basic interstellar capability, modest weapons, unremarkable defenses. She pulled out a small device from her pocket. That assessment is based on what we have shown you. It is not based on what we actually have. Impossible, said one of the other council members, a crystalline being called a Lithari. Our sensors are the most advanced in the galaxy. We can detect technologies across light years. Your sensors can detect technologies you understand, Dr. Kim corrected. They cannot detect technologies you have never imagined. She held up the device. It was small and plain, almost boring to look at. This device contains a message, she said. When I activate it, that message will be broadcast to every human ship, every human colony, every human outpost in the galaxy. It will travel instantaneously because it does not use your communication methods. It uses something else, something we invented 40 years ago and have kept hidden ever since. Why would you hide such technology? Thalvex demanded. Elena answered, because we knew this day would come. We knew that sooner or later, someone would find us. Someone old and powerful and convinced of their own superiority. We knew they would try to control us, to absorb us, to make us small and quiet and obedient. She took the device from Dr. Kim. So we prepared. We built fleets you have never seen. We developed weapons you cannot imagine. We created technologies that break every rule your scientists believe in. And we hid all of it, waiting for the moment when we would need it. You are bluffing, Thalvex said, but his voice had changed. There was something in it that had not been there before, something that might have been doubt. Elena shook her head. We are human. We do not bluff. We plan. She held up the device. Shall I show you? The council chamber fell absolutely silent. 4,000 years of tradition demanded that petitioners submit, apologize, and beg for mercy. No one had ever stood before the council and offered to demonstrate their power. Thalvex looked at Elena for a long moment. His four eyes studied her face, searching for signs of deception, of fear, of anything that would suggest she was not serious. He found nothing. You would threaten the council? He asked quietly. No, Elena said. I would educate it. I would show you what humanity really is. I would give you the chance to understand before you make any decisions you cannot take back. She pressed a button on the device. Nothing visible happened. No alarm sounded. No weapons fired. But across the galaxy, in hidden places that no council sensor had ever found, 2 million human ships received a signal. The signal said, wake up. It is time. What have you done? Thalvex demanded. Elena smiled. I have sent an invitation. In approximately 3 minutes, you are going to see something that will change everything you think you know about the universe. She stepped back and crossed her arms. I suggest you watch carefully. 3 minutes passed in absolute silence. The council members sat frozen in their seats. The delegations from thousands of species watched from the observation galleries, not daring to move or speak. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Then the sensors began to scream. Every alarm in Nexus Prime activated at once. Warning lights flashed across every surface. Automated voices announced dangers in 100 languages. The ancient station, which had stood undisturbed for millions of years, suddenly came alive with panic. What is happening? Thalvex roared. A technician stumbled forward, his forearms shaking as he operated a console. Ships, high arbiter. Ships are appearing everywhere. Our sensors are detecting massive signatures across the entire galaxy. Council vessels responding to a threat? No. The technician's voice cracked. They are not ours. They are human. Holographic displays flickered and changed. The careful intelligence the council had gathered about humanity vanished, replaced by new data streaming in from every corner of the galaxy. The numbers were impossible. The locations were impossible. Everything was impossible. Elena watched calmly as the truth revealed itself. Your records say we have 40,000 ships, she said. The actual number is 2.3 million. Most of them have been hidden in places your sensors cannot reach. Nebulae that we have modified to block scans. Asteroid fields that contain more than rocks. Pocket dimensions that we learned to create 50 years ago. The displays updated again. Ship after ship after ship appeared on the galactic map. They emerged near council homeworlds, near military bases, near the sacred sites of ancient civilizations. They did not fire. They did not attack. They simply appeared, hanging in space like stars that had suddenly decided to move. Your records say our population is 94 billion, Elena continued. The actual number is over 300 billion. Generations have been born on ships that never stop moving. Colonies have grown in dimensions you do not even know exist. We have spread further and faster than any species in history. Thalvex stared at the displays. His ancient face, which had shown nothing but contempt since the humans arrived, now showed something else entirely. It took Elena a moment to recognize the expression. It was fear. This is not possible, he whispered. You have only existed for 300 years. No species could achieve this in such a short time. No species like yours could achieve it, Elena corrected. But we are not like you. We do not have millions of years to build empires. We do not have the luxury of moving slowly and carefully. We have short lives and burning ambitions and a refusal to accept limitations. Dr. Kim stepped forward again. May I explain, High Arbiter? From a scientific perspective? Thalvex nodded slowly, still staring at the impossible numbers on the displays. Your species lives for thousands of years, Dr. Kim began. Most council species do. Long lives mean slow change. You have time to be careful, to test everything thoroughly, to avoid risks. Progress happens gradually over millennia. She pulled up a new display showing human history. Humans live for about 80 years without modification, 120 with it. That is nothing compared to you, but it means every generation knows they are racing against death. Every scientist, every inventor, every dreamer knows they have limited time to make their mark. So they push harder. They take risks. They try things that seem impossible. The display showed the speed of human development, stone tools to metal, metal to machines, machines to computers, computers to artificial intelligence. Each jump happened faster than the one before. We went from our first powered flight to walking on our moon in 66 years, Dr. Kim said. We went from basic computers to machines that could think in less than a century. We developed faster than light travel within 50 years of leaving our home planet. We created dimensional folding technology within 100 years of that. Dimensional folding is theoretical, one of the council members protested. The mathematics require energies that cannot be harnessed. The mathematics, as you understand them, require such energies, Dr. Kim agreed. We found another way. We usually do. Elena took over. The council has ruled for millions of years by being the oldest and the most powerful. You have faced challenges before, but they have always come from species that think like you do, species that develop slowly, that move carefully, that can be predicted and controlled. She gestured at the displays showing the human fleet. We do not think like you. We do not develop slowly. We cannot be predicted because we are constantly changing, constantly growing, constantly becoming something new. The humanity that exists today is not the humanity that existed a century ago, and the humanity that will exist a century from now will be something else entirely. Thalvex finally spoke. His voice was quiet, almost thoughtful. You could have remained hidden. You could have continued to grow in secret until you were truly ready. Why reveal yourselves now? It was a good question. Elena had expected someone to ask it. Because hiding is not who we are, she said. We did not build all of this just to cower in the shadows forever. We built it because we wanted to be ready for this conversation. We wanted to meet you as equals, not as subjects. She looked around the chamber at the assembled council members. For millions of years, the galaxy has been ruled by species who believe that age equals wisdom, that power equals authority, that the old have the right to control the young. You have built an empire based on dominance and fear. Any species that challenged you was destroyed. Any species that submitted was absorbed. Her voice grew stronger. We are offering you something different. We are not here to destroy your empire or to submit to it. We are here to change it, to wake it up, to remind it what progress feels like. And if we refuse your offer, Thalvex asked, if we decide that humanity is too dangerous to exist, Elena met his gaze, then you will discover that we did not show you everything today. Those 2 million ships, they are the ones we wanted you to see. The ones we do not want you to see are still hidden, and they are carrying weapons that we really, really hope we never have to use. The chamber fell silent again. The weight of her words hung in the air like a physical presence. You would threaten total war? Thalvex asked. I would prefer total cooperation, Elena replied. But we are humans. We prepare for everything. She softened her expression slightly. We are not your enemies, High Arbiter. We do not want to destroy what you have built. We want to make it better. We want to share what we have learned and learn what you know. We want to push the boundaries of what is possible together. She held out her hand. But we will not kneel. We will not submit. We will not pretend to be less than we are. Those days are over. The question now is, what kind of future do you want? Thalvex looked at her hand. He looked at the displays showing human ships spread across the galaxy. He looked at his fellow council members, all of them waiting for his decision. Then he did something no High Arbiter had done in 300,000 years. He asked for time to think. The council deliberated for 7 days. During that time, Elena and her delegation remained on Nexus Prime. They were given quarters that were luxurious by any standard. Rooms carved from living crystal with views of captured stars. But they were also surrounded by guards at all times. The council was not sure yet whether they were guests or prisoners. Elena did not mind. She used the time to meet with delegations from other species. Word had spread quickly about what had happened in the council chamber. Everyone wanted to know more about the humans who had laughed at the High Arbiter. Some came out of curiosity. The Delphini, an aquatic species that communicated through complex song, wanted to understand how humans thought. They found it fascinating that such a short-lived species could achieve so much. They compared humanity to supernovas, brief, brilliant, and impossible to ignore. Others came out of hope. A reptilian species called the Keth had been under council control for 50,000 years. Their homeworld had been stripped of resources. Their population had been limited. Their technology had been frozen at whatever level the council deemed safe. They looked at Elena with desperate eyes and asked if humanity could help them become free. Not yet, Elena told them honestly. We are not here to start a war. But if things change, if the council becomes something better, perhaps we can all become free together. Admiral Chen spent his time studying Nexus Prime's defenses. He found them impressive but outdated. The station had been built to withstand threats from species that thought like the council, that attacked in predictable ways with predictable weapons. It would not survive a human assault for more than a few hours. He kept this information to himself, for now. On the 7th day, Elena was summoned back to the council chamber. The atmosphere had changed. The arrogance was gone. So was the contempt. The council members looked at her differently now. They had spent a week studying the data, analyzing the implications, debating among themselves. They had reached a conclusion. Thalvex rose from his seat. He looked older than he had before, as if the weight of this decision had aged him even further. We have considered your word, Pamuam, he began. We have studied your fleet. We have analyzed your technology. We have debated what this means for the future of the galaxy. He paused. We have also looked at ourselves, at our history, at the patterns that have defined council civilization for millions of years. He descended from his seat and approached Elena. This time there was no threat in his posture. There was something else, something that might have been respect. You were right, he said quietly. We have stagnated. We have been so focused on maintaining order that we forgot why order was important in the first place. We built an empire that conquered the galaxy, but stopped reaching for anything beyond it. Elena nodded but said nothing. This was his moment. The council has made a decision, Thalvex announced. We will not attempt to integrate humanity by force. We will not demand your submission. We will not make war against you. A ripple of shock passed through the chamber. Many of the observing delegations gasped. In millions of years of history, the council had never backed down from a challenge. Instead, Thalvex continued, we will accept your offer. We will open negotiations for a new kind of relationship, not masters and subjects, not rulers and ruled. Something else. He looked at Elena with his 4 ancient eyes. You called it partnership. We have no word for it in our language. But perhaps that is the point. Perhaps we need new words for new ideas. Elena felt something loosen in her chest. She had prepared for many outcomes, including war. She had not fully prepared for this one. Thank you, High Arbiter, she said. I know this was not an easy decision. It was not, he agreed. Many on the council still believe we should destroy you while we can. They say that a species like humanity is too dangerous to exist, that your growth will eventually threaten everything we have built. And what do you believe? Thalvex was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, more personal, less formal. I believe that the galaxy has been asleep for too long. I believe that we have forgotten what it feels like to wonder, to dream, to reach for things beyond our grasp. I believe that fear of change has made us less than we could be. He extended one of his 4 arms toward her. Your species frightens me, Ambassador. You change too fast. You dream too big. You refuse to accept that anything is impossible. But I think that is exactly what we need. I think the galaxy needs to be frightened. I think it needs to wake up. Elena took his arm in both her hands. The gesture meant something different in Dominari culture, but Palvex understood the intention. Then let us wake it up together, she said. The treaty that followed took 3 months to negotiate. It was not perfect. Many details remained unresolved. Many questions remained unanswered. But it established the fundamental principle that Elena had come to fight for. Humanity would not be ruled. They would not be controlled. They would not be small and quiet and obedient. They would remain who they were, a young species with old souls, a mortal race with immortal ambitions, a small people with enormous dreams, and they would share those dreams with anyone who wanted to dream alongside them. On the day the treaty was signed, Elena stood on the observation deck of the Defiant One last time. Admiral Chen stood beside her. Behind them, the human delegation celebrated quietly. Ahead of them, Nexus Prime slowly grew smaller as their ship began the long journey home. Do you think it will last? Chen asked. Elena considered the question. I think it will change. Everything changes. That is what we do, what we have always done. We push and grow and become something new. The Council will resist sometimes. They will struggle against the change we bring, but they cannot stop it. No one can. And humanity? What becomes of us? Elena smiled. It was a real smile this time, full of warmth and wonder and hope. We keep going. We keep dreaming. We keep reaching for things that everyone says are impossible. We spread across the galaxy and beyond it. We make mistakes and learn from them. We fight and love and build and destroy and start over again. She turned to face the stars. We are human. We are 300 years old, and we are just getting started. The Defiant jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying its precious cargo of dreamers back to a species that had never stopped believing in the impossible. Behind them, the galaxy that had slept for millions of years began to wake up, and across the vast darkness of space, on 1,000,000 worlds and 1 billion ships, beings of every shape and size looked up at the stars and wondered what would happen next. For the first time in eons, no one knew the answer. For the first time in eons, that felt like hope.